You've put in the hours at the gym, dialed in your diet, and yet there is one area that often refuses to budge. That stubborn layer of lower belly fat is one of the most common and frustrating hurdles for anyone trying to lean out. The common approach is to attack the area with targeted efforts. However, isolating the abdominal muscles through repetitive movement fails to remove the adipose tissue resting on top of them. Moves like planks and sit-ups score a low 3.5 on the metabolic equivalent of task scale. These exercises maintain a low heart rate, which results in minimal energy expenditure, even during extended sets. Attaining a flat stomach requires a systemic caloric deficit that forces the body to draw energy from its storage centers rather than relying on localized muscle fatigue. To generate that massive energy demand without any equipment, you need a movement that engages the entire body simultaneously. You need the high knee. This movement often carries the reputation of a middle school gym class warm-up. In reality, it is a vigorous, high-impact cardiovascular tool that pushes the body toward its maximum metabolic limit. This single exercise bridges the gap between functional core strengthening and the heavy calorie burn required for total body fat loss. This graphic shows the human muscular system in profile during a high knee step. Forcefully driving the leg upward engages the hip flexors and lower abdominal muscles to lift the limb's weight against gravity. Maintaining an upright torso during this explosive drive forces the deep core muscles, specifically the transverse abdominis, which wrap around the midsection, to act as essential stabilizers. Simultaneously, the standing leg manages a significant load. The calves and quads must absorb the shock of the landing while immediately generating the power for the next push-off. High knees essentially replicate sprinting mechanics without forward displacement. Without momentum to assist the movement, the body remains in a state of constant, maximum engagement. We can quantify this demand using the MET scale, or metabolic equivalent of task. This measures how much oxygen and energy an activity demands compared to the body at rest. In clinical testing, a moderate high knee pace scores an 8.0 MET value. Pushing to a maximum effort HIIT pace increases this to 10.0 METs, meaning the body consumes 10 times the oxygen it does while sitting. This 10.0 MET score translates into roughly 7 to 12 calories burned per minute, with the specific expenditure scaling directly with an individual's body weight. Purely from a mathematical standpoint, high knees achieve a higher rate of caloric expenditure than almost any other common bodyweight exercise. The effectiveness of this movement involves the specific hormonal responses triggered by high-intensity intervals. The severe cardiovascular load of high knees triggers a surge of catecholamines, like epinephrine, into the bloodstream. This hormonal spike initiates lipolysis within visceral adipose tissue, effectively breaking down the stubborn fat stored deep around the internal organs. Sustaining this intensity shifts the metabolic environment toward the active reduction of deep abdominal fat stores. Because high knees involve high mechanical impact, executing them with poor form negates the metabolic benefits and increases the risk of injury. This diagram demonstrates the first major error, leaning too far forward. This physically blocks the hip flexors from fully contracting, shortchanging the movement. Conversely, leaning backward with flailing arms places dangerous compression stress on the lower back during every foot strike. The environment also matters. Performing this movement on unforgiving surfaces like concrete or asphalt sends shockwaves through the ankles and knees. Without careful execution, an elite fat-burning tool can become an orthopedic liability. Proper execution begins with starting posture. Slightly tuck the pelvis, and imagine zipping up a tight pair of jeans to lock the core into a stabilized position. During the movement, land softly on the balls of the feet. This allows the calves and quads to disperse the impact throughout the kinetic chain. For those with joint concerns, scaling options include the lower impact A-skip, or leaning against a wall to maintain balance while protecting the spine. By replacing low-intensity crunches with 10 to 20 minutes of properly executed high knee intervals, you can achieve significant visceral fat reduction while building functional